On his 60th birthday, a man decided to prepare his last will. So he went to his pastor to make two final requests. First, he insisted on cremation. Then, what is your second request? The pastor asked. I want my ashes scattered over Bloomingdale's. Bloomingdale's? Why over Bloomingdale's? The pastor said. Then the man replied, then I'm sure that my daughters visit me twice a week. Some biblical scholars say that the Ten Commandments represent how Judaism had developed from the ritualistic religion to the ethical religion. As you know well, the Ten Commandments consist of relationship with God and others. The first four commandments are associated with God, which is ritualistic aspects, while the other six commandments are related with others, neighbors, which is ethical life. According to the scholars, the Jews primarily focused on the worship of God and religion at first. Yet, as time passed, they began to highlight ethical relationship with others, neighbors, as well. Today, we focus on one of the ethical aspects in their religion: honor your parents, as we celebrate Father's Day. There's a Korean traditional story. I might have shared this story before. It is regarding the relationship between a child and parent. Once upon a time, there was a frog. He was living with a mother. He was the only child. He was spoiled. He was a problem. He always wayward and rebellious. He always did the opposite to what his mother said. For example, if the mother asked him to have a good relationship with his friends, he always fought with his friends. Time passed. The mother was getting old and was about to pass away. So she was afraid that the son would bury her near the creek and her grave would be swept away if it rains. So she thought that if she asked him to bury her near the creek, he would do the opposite thing as usual and bury her in a very nice and safe and dry hill. So as last will, he asked him to bury her near the creek, hoping very nice, safe place. One day she passed away. After death, the frog became so sorry what he had done to her and cried a lot. Although it was late, he decided to do what she said exactly. So he buried her in the near creek as requested by his mother. But it was the beginning of a big problem. Whenever it rained, the frog would be afraid that the inundated water in the creek would sweep the grave away. So whenever it rained in sorrow, he always cried. Korean people say that it is the reason why frogs always cry when it rains. Through the story, Koreans have traditionally taught their children about the virtue of respecting parents. The fifth commandment is honor your father and your mother, your parents. I'm pretty sure this commandment was taken seriously by the Israelites. For example, Leviticus 20, verse 9 says, "For everyone that curses his father or his mother shall be surely put to death. He that curses his father or his mother, his blood shall be upon him." In retrospect, generally speaking, I try to respect my own parents, my father and my mother. But there was a time when I was very rebellious to my parents, especially my father. It lasted several years. In my 20s, I was full of new ideas, new value systems at that time. But from my perspective, my father seemed to be old-fashioned and very conservative. I couldn't understand him at the time. So I was kind of arguing with my father and sometimes criticized my father's way of life or his value. I'm pretty sure he must have been insulted and hurt by me at the time. But at the time I thought I was right and my father deserved my criticism. You know what? I am experiencing the same thing from my children nowadays. You know, my children are good and they are nice and innocent. But, you know, children sometimes are rebellious and sometimes they attack my authority. Sometimes I'm startled by their behaviors and words because they are very similar to what I used against my father. But sometimes I feel like I deserve it because this is what I have done to my father a long time ago. You know, through that I kind of realized that it is passing through generations. In the Ten Commandments, there is a verse, punishments to the third and fourth generation, blessings to thousands of generations. You know, to me it is like something good or bad is passing through our generations. That means we need to be good to our parents when we expect our children to be good toward us. The other day I saw a documentary dealing with dementia. You know, a father in the family was struggling with dementia. He's only 49 years old, around my age, still young. But he was a judge, but he had to quit his job because he was struggling with dementia, the loss of memory, Alzheimer's disease. One of the struggles the family has is that they cannot share their precious past family stories together because the father does not remember specific date, time, event, or names. So he seems like fabricating all those stories because he does not remember it well. One day, his son and the father was having argument each other when they were talking about the past, the previous family story. All of a sudden, the son was upset and stood up and said to father, "You are fabricating the story. It is not right. It is not accurate." He was upset, angry, and he got out of the room. The cameraman followed the son. And outside the house, the son was crying by himself. And he said, "It is very hard to talk with my father because he doesn't remember. Yet, you know what? I still love him. I still love him so much." Wow. Watching their documentary, even though they seem to be arguing each other, seem to be fighting against each other, they still in love relationship. The father used to be the leader of the family, but not anymore. He is now totally dependent upon his children. He's getting sick. The family seems like going through transition, a lot of difficulties and conflicts, arguments, confusion. Nevertheless, the family is still bound together, support each other, love each other, and respect each other. There is a poem in Korea which is read at Parents' Day. So let me read the poem and let me conclude my sermon for Father's Day today. People say that it is the sky which is highest in the world, but to me, there's one thing higher than the sky. It is the grace of parents who gave birth to me and raised me. It seems to be higher than the blue sky. People say that it is the ocean that is widest in the world. Yet, to me, there is one thing wider than the ocean. It is the grace of parents who encouraged me to be a good person. It seems to be wider than the ocean. Brothers and sisters, let us respect, honor our father and mother. It is the fifth commandment. Amen.